Welcome to When Women Preach. This podcast exists to amplify the voice of AAPI and Latina women faith leaders at the pulpit and in the public square. This podcast was created and hosted by Isaac, Innovative Space for Asian American Christianity, and made it possible through Lilly Endowment. My name is Youngli Hertig, and today's guest is my favorite Maite Arce, CEO of Hispanic Access Foundation. Welcome, Maite.
Thank you, Dr. Young. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today and with your amazing audience. I've been following your podcast and enjoying the conversations you have with amazing leaders.
Yes, we're blessed. I think we exceeded more than 9,500 downloads. So we are deeply grateful for our listeners and followers. And if you all could click subscribe button on our YouTube channel, that helps us. So without further ado, I'd like to just dive in. You mentioned something very interesting. I don't think there's a CEO school. So you said you're a self-made, self-taught CEO who built Hispanic Access Foundation from the ground up with zero budget and zero reach. As a woman of faith leading in what you've uncharted territory, what was the internal compass that kept you moving forward when the path wasn't clear?
That's a wonderful question. And I'm often asked this question because I think people are curious about the journey of founders. You are a founder. I am a founder. Many women are founders these days, and it's very exciting to see. And I think for me, the path, even though it's been 16 years since I founded Hispanic Access Foundation, the path is still not clear, Dr. Young. And I've grown accustomed to the uncertainty. I've grown accustomed to the journey that it's, we are blazing the trail in many ways as women. And for me, when I was starting this process of building this organization from the ground up, my inner compass was almost like a package of several items. So I'm going to describe this package, starting with my values. My values are what was driving my motivation to help my community, is my values of integrity, of family, of faith. And for me, knowing that I had the will and I had the capacity to be able to do really my best for my community, and they deserve the best. And I felt that communities really need that integrity of truly supporting community. And in the experience I have had, it's not always there, that integrity, as you know, and you've seen. So that package includes my values. It includes Jesus' example, because he set the example for us, and I'm a certain servant leader. So that example helped me as well in that package. The verse of Matthew 19:26 says, with humans, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. And that I repeated to myself regularly in this process, and that really gave me the unwavering belief that I would succeed because I had God on my side. And lastly, in this package was the idea of self-care, which is such a challenging thing. And sometimes I get it right, sometimes I don't. That balance is always something we strive for. But at that time, in the process of starting up, I knew I wanted to start a fully remote organization in 2010 when that wasn't something people really supported or understood. But I wanted to be close to my family, and I wanted to be to be able to work from home. And I knew we had the technology to be able to do that. So that package completed my inner compass that was guiding me at the time.
So faith, and with God, nothing is impossible. God of the impossible. So thank you. And if you don't mind bragging, so starting with zero budget, that sounds really familiar. And now moving fast forward, what's your budget if you don't mind sharing?
Our budget now is almost 19 million. So it's
13?
19 million.
My goodness.
And I'm it is me, it's not something to brag about. It's actually it sometimes scares me. But it at the same time, it is I think you're right. It's something to celebrate. The growth
Yes.
and reach is something tremendous to celebrate and to be thankful for.
So, listeners out there, women of color, may be interested in knowing, how do you go from zero to 19 million?
For us, it began organically. It's serving the community, you know, doing it with quality and with care, building relationships that last, and building that foundation for trust. And when we partner with communities to cooperate, collaborate, to strengthen their purpose and community, the end result is lives change. And I think that initially attracted resources for us and opportunities and funders. And I recall using social media, learning to use it at that time. And funders would call and say, "Can we have some coffee? I saw what you're doing through social media, and I'd like to get to know you a little bit better and explore how we could support." So, little by little, those relationships began. And as we partnered with those organizations, just
Mhm.
the careful stewardship of
Yeah.
those relationships really mattered.
So, how many employees do you have now at Hispanic Access Foundation?
We have about 50 employees, and
Five
we
zero.
50. They are located from Puerto Rico to San Diego across the nation. And we all work from home.
That is just amazing. So, your strategy is relational intelligence and social media. Moving on, you've said that community historically have been led by others who didn't include their voices. As a Latina leading a national organization, how have you navigated being both the person advocating for a seat at the table and the person building the table itself?
Well, I think um, it's it's really it's a long-term journey. I like to see that it's being able to think long-term about what's possible and shooting for having ambitious goals with our community, wanting to see systemic change. But at the same time, short term, we want to be able to see individual leaders learn and grow and their capacity to grow and their impact on their own lives as well as collectively to grow. So for us, it's, as I build relationships or we build relationships with communities and leaders, and we listen for what they need, we ask them, how can we help? We will listen for their desire to connect to um, influential tables in a sense and be able to use their voice. And we walk with them long term. And I think that's the special sauce of our work is that we build that foundation for trust so that we're able to embark on a journey that tends to be messy. As you know, relationships are messy. Sometimes we understand each other. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we communicate. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we make mistakes. But if there's that foundation of trust, we can
Mhm.
talk about it. We can walk through that and we can change together. And it's very reciprocal because the leaders, community leaders we work with help us and they help me. They say, how can I help you? And how can we, so we help each other, but the long-term vision has to be there to help to build that table over time, which takes time and it may take decades as well, which is what we're planning for. We have a 10-year plan right now
Mhm.
in the process of building that table, and I think that's really important because that's where then those leaders come together and collectively make change the conditions of their in their community that they want to see change.
Your community must be so special, Maite. The word reciprocity really is popping out to me because that seems more like an exception where I'm sitting at. Sometimes my relationship building effort, I must be missing some recipe here. To be honest, it feels one sided. And reciprocity is rather rare. How do you make that happen?
I think the way that I see that it happens is that I create space for it. So if we
Mm-hmm.
have so the most recent is just a few days ago. I was in South Padre Island off the coast of Texas, South Texas, and we were taking a community, a pastor and his community on a fishing trip and teaching kids to fish. And I joined that fishing trip and sat with the pastors. There were several pastors and one pastor sat down and we had a conversation and he told me about how much he's enjoyed working with us, in Latino Conservation Week and in all of these different activities. And he said, I just have really enjoyed this work. And he said, and I want to ask, how can I help you? What can I do for you? And that
Mm-hmm.
is something that's very special. And think those moments of interpersonal time together creates the space to have those moments.
I'm going to learn how to fish, Maite, and go for fishing trip. I think that's the recipe I'm missing out. So, you know, bonus question. Your favorite book, Canoeing the Mountains,
Yes.
speaks to the idea that people from the margins are most equipped to lead into the future. How has your own experience as an immigrant and woman of faith been just your story, but actually your strategy?
Well, I love the way that you present that to me. How is my immigrant story actually my strategy for the work that I do? It is my strategy. It is all based on my lived experience and my watching my parents in action as they came to this country and searched for a better life and all of that they experienced in order to improve my life and to make my life better than theirs has been. And I think it's those incredible experiences from childhood all the way to being a wife and mother and to being a servant of Christ. Those experiences include a lot of unexpected moments, a lot of uncertainty, hardship, and change. And I think it creates perseverance in us and it creates perspective in us. And I think I always remember Luke 8:22, the story of Jesus on calming the storm, if you remember that, and
Yes.
how he and the disciples go out into the boat and Jesus takes a nap on the boat. And the disciples start to see this storm come through, and the storm creates this tremendous fear that they're going to drown. And the disciples are calling Jesus saying, "Help us, we're going to drown." And at that moment, the disciples are facing a potentially life or death storm.
Mm-hmm.
And they forgot three things. They forgot Jesus's promise.
Mm-hmm.
All his promises to us that he's never going to leave us. He won't forsake us. They forgot his presence. He was right there with them.
Mm-hmm.
And they forgot his power. And that to me is as immigrants, we experience these incredible moments in our childhood, in our life. All of that's built our character, our strength, our ability to respond to change in front of us that's unexpected, to crisis, to the big things. And so I do feel we are better prepared to be able to respond to the future, which continues to be more and more uncertain. And we really don't know what to expect.
Yeah, I think that metaphor, that passage of storm, I think what we are facing today and running a nonprofit for good cause as women of color in this climate, we more than ever need to be reminded of presence of Jesus and calming of storm. And I think that faith needs to be a reminder of everyday life. So during this very unusual moment, let's address leadership issue to younger generations who might be listening to our podcast. What are some of the qualities, leadership qualities, that is required during such a stormy climate we face today?
It's very important that as leaders, we are comfortable asking for help. And we recognize that we are super women, but we're not that super women. We're not the super woman who can do it all. We shouldn't do it all. It's too hard to do it all. And many women, as women, there are moments where we've tried to do it all. And it's just so much kinder to me if I have help, if I ask for help. And what's incredible is people are willing to help. When I started Hispanic Access in the beginning, I called 10 people that I admired. I made a notebook and I called 10 people. 9 of those people said, I remember one person said, "Are you going to earn a salary? I'm worried about you. I don't know. But I'm here. I'm willing to help." And 9 of those people said, "Tell me what you need. I'm going to help you." One person said, "It'll never work. You can never do this. This will fail. It's too hard." And that seemed to energize me even more. So asking for help and knowing you don't have to do this alone is something that's a piece of wisdom I'd like to share with women as they tackle challenges, even crisis, because that's when you have to have in a crisis, whether it's COVID or whether it's, something else, it seems to be a magnified period of activity where you have to be a very strong decision maker and you have to process as much information as you can. And it has to be good information. So having advisors, having people you trust to tell you the truth and be very direct with you is very helpful during that period of time.
Mhm.
And then also, I was strengthened by maturing with scripture. That helped me mature as a Christian. And that strengthens me in terms of seeing God's vision is so big. My crisis, what I'm going through right now is just today. He's got
Mhm.
a plan, and that takes the pressure off of me. So scripture and that process of maturing as a Christian has been very, very helpful for me.
Faith, hope, and love. And lastly, I'd like us to talk about fun. Females United Network, which has really strengthened my leadership as we learn mutually from one another. with Hispanic Access Foundation and Latin America Bible Institute College. What's your experience being part of FUN?
One of the challenges in leadership is we often don't have the space as in a small circle of women who share that a leadership role and understand the challenges of what we go through as leaders of organizations. And having that small group of leaders who have invested valuable time and care and intentionality to get to know one another, to build trust, to hear each other's stories, and to hear each other's challenges and where we need to help and to help one another, I think is incredibly valuable. That is what our fun group has done for me, and my relationship with you, Young, has been an incredible blessing because each of us in this group have different personalities, which is exactly what we want, right? We want to be able to leverage one another's knowledge and strengths and differences. And I love that you just tell me how you see it with such wisdom. And that's, to a leader, can be what's usually missing in their leadership role is people don't tell you what they're seeing. They don't tell you the blind spots that you're facing. But the other thing about the fun group is we've had fun. We've had
Yes.
made quality time to have fun together, to laugh together, to share meals and share wine and uh and that's a really incredible moment of bonding as well. And lastly, those of us, we have younger women in this group who look up to you and to me and say, what can we learn from you? And one of those areas we've talked about is self-care as a leader. And I remember that with Gabriela and Brianna,
Brianna.
they I believe I shared with them, slow down. Make sure you make time for self-care. Take good care of yourself. Make that a priority. And the last time we gathered, I was the one who needed the self-care and to slow down. So it was a good moment to see that it's a journey and that we all struggle through it, and we're here to remind each other about what's important.
In the last 2 years, I can tell how intergenerationally we have grown into one another and leaning into one another. So to me, that was something my takeaway is, and how we built trust and just unmask and be ourselves and learn from one another. So you've been such an amazing role model for me, Maite. And I think many listeners would benefit by listening to, your wisdom from zero to $19 million organization you have built. And that really speaks volumes of faith, mustard seed like faith that you have built. So we are grateful for you. And most of all, I love you as a human being. Such an amazing human being you are.
I love you too, Dr. Young. You are very special to me and very important to our community. And I'm very thankful for how you've opened this space to create the opportunity for women to express their authentic selves. And I've seen many of the women who so courageously speak their story, and it's even through hard times. And I think it's beautiful.
Solidarity we have. Well, thank you, Maite, for taking your busy time off and sharing your wisdom with our listeners and with me. And once again, this podcast exists for AAPI and Latina woman faith leaders at the pulpit and in public square. And we are dreaming of maybe, God willing, gather some of the listeners who are local in California. And if you have any questions or requests, you can email to us, podcast@isaacweb.org. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you all for listening to us.
Thank you.